Hello everyone, it's the 3rd of June 2024. I'm Gary Waterman. I'm a former police officer, a Christian and a victim of this international government fraud that links to child trafficking. Now this video is specifically about SONIA POULTON, and the reason I'm doing this is that several people have sent me a video clip of SONIA on her very first live show, which I found very interesting, and she mentions me and contradicts what I'm saying to the public. So I need to address that. And several people, or some of the people that I've been working closely to try and come to a resolution in this, have said, Gary, how do we address this if someone's contradicting you and saying these things? Well, of course, I'm going to come back and provide a rebuttal and rebuke what they've said, and if necessary, I'll show evidence to supply a potential motive as to why they're saying those things and not wanting to publicly expose the evidence that I'm showing. And let's remember, this is not about me. I do not want the attention. It is all about my evidence. And if I can use my voice to bring this evidence and thrust it into the public domain, and because it is incredibly important, no matter what SONIA says, it is the most important information for a very, very long time. And many people are now seeing that and understanding it. And it is linked to most of the world's problems. So there's several things before I show the clip of SONIA talking about me that I'd like to address with what she says. The first thing is that she states there is no illegitimate activity and it's completely fine with what's happening within Companies House. She then goes on to contradict herself and say, well, I could be completely wrong. SONIA, you are wrong. And somebody makes an important point on your video, which we'll see at the moment in a moment on the comments, and states that SONIA appears to be to suggest that she knows more than a former police officer in terms of the law. Now, I'd just like to clarify that point, that I was in the police for 18 years, and I did actually have an input and some learning and teaching on the 2006 Fraud Act. And without a doubt, 100%, okay, let me make this clear, 100% certainty, there is a crime that has been occurring by our very own governments by the forgery of the Companies House registration system, okay? Now, I'm not too sure if SONIA understood this, but I did explain it to her, and I even showed her, while she was on the phone, she went through and looked at Companies House and saw the forgery on the register. She didn't say it wasn't a forgery then, and this is because what they're doing is, and SONIA, this is for you, because most people are understanding this now, and you're an intelligent woman, most people are understanding it and going, wow, when I talk them through it, and they're saying, wow, this is the most important information for over a century, and I completely agree. And what's happening is the legal incorporation document, for about the 20th time I'm saying this, I'm not too sure, the incorporation document is a legal document normally that's been signed with a name of the director, secretary, address, and importantly the company name at the top. This is being attached to the register, and Companies House is choosing to deliberately put a different company name onto the register, even though the date matches that document and matches that what they're putting on the register. So it's a deliberate change of information, it's a deliberate forgery. And in the 2006 Fraud Act, it states that if there's a forgery in a legal document or a public register such as this that creates a risk of a financial loss to a victim or a risk of an unlawful gain to those involved, then the crime is complete, okay? There doesn't have to be a loss, doesn't have to be a gain, it's the risk of that happening. And of course there's a risk. If there's a forgery creating an illegal entity company that should never have been trading because they haven't been actually registered, have they, correctly and lawfully, therefore, they shouldn't have been trading, which it says in the Companies Law Act, I believe. Can't remember the exact legislation for that. It's not criminal, that's the Company Law Act or something. Anyway, that means that they are not lawfully registered, of course, if the register doesn't match the legal incorporation document at the start of the company. Okay, I can't explain it any more simply than that. It's very simple. And they should never have been trading, but they continue to do so, okay? That means they can basically do what they want, get away with what they want, and it's very difficult to hold them, almost impossible, in fact, to hold them legally accountable, liable because of the original forgery, and they're not a lawful company. So the other thing that SONIA says is that she states that I just talk about links, but I don't, do I? I'm actually showing evidential research links within the government's own registration system and the attached documents. You cannot get much better evidence than that, SONIA. So it is not just me talking about it. The other thing that SONIA says is that I am being defamatory. Now, to be defamatory, you need to have, first of all, you need to be lying or be providing misinformation or disinformation. But also there's an element of, is it in the public interest to actually give this information out, even though it may be defamatory in that case. Of course, this is absolutely in the public interest. It is without question the root cause of most of the problems in the world, despite what SONIA says. I don't think she well, we'll see. We'll have a look in a minute at why she may be saying what she's saying, and it needs to be exposed. Okay, even those linked to it that have an opportunity to speak out and address this, that may not have knowingly been involved in it, they need to be given that opportunity to address it. If they're not, then they're going to be exposed potentially, okay, as having a motive potentially for what they're doing or not doing. Okay, so we're going to look at Sonia in a minute in relation to that. The other thing I'd like to say is when you're looking at the video of Sonia talking, I'm scrolling and looking at the comments, and some of the comments there suggest that there's been replies to those comments. Okay, so there's like 2 replies on some of them. When you click into it, those replies are gone. And this is another thing that's happening. So comments are being removed. People are having to resubscribe to my channel. It's completely suppressed. You can see that. You know, I can't get above it. I think it's 11,300 followers. That it should be way more than that. And lots of people are realizing, you know, it is being suppressed. Many people are saying that they're having to resubscribe continuously. And this just shows, again, this is YouTube actually showing that they're complicit within this criminal network and criminal system, because it's being suppressed. Very fortunately, there's other mediums that I'm using. Lots of emails going out. The evidential research document link is now right around the world. There's no stopping this, even if they stop me and silence me. So, it's really important that there's other methods being used to send this evidence. And I do suggest that you all get to my document file link. Get that document file link and share it on your email. Share this even further. We need to get this far and wide. Remember, it's not about me. I'm gaining absolutely nothing from this. I'm risking everything. Okay, it's all about the truth. Getting us back to truth, transparency, and trust. It's absolutely essential now with all of this. So please do that. There's other things I'm going to be suggesting that people join community groups soon. I'll do a little video specifically about that. And we need to get all of the MPs and councillors on notice if they're not going to do anything about this. And don't forget, I'm not getting any responses from anyone that should be addressing this. They're all ignoring it, which again, all they're doing is saying, we're almost saying we're guilty if they're not actually going to address it when they're in a position to do so. So let's have a look at Sonia Poulton's video, and then afterwards I will show the evidential research document links. And please, I'm not suggesting that, and I never have actually said that Sonia is involved directly in any criminal activity or child trafficking. Is she linked to a system of government, international government fraud that is linked to child trafficking? Absolutely, 100%, Sonia, you are. Am I linked to a system of fraud through Companies House and international government fraud and child trafficking? Absolutely, I am. But I'm trying, because I was unknowingly drawn into it. And you may well have been, Sonia. You may not have known what was going on, but therefore, surely you should be wanting to speak about it even more. But obviously, you've made your decision on that, and that's fine. And this isn't about an attack on you or anything like that. It is about what can I do to get this evidence to gain more traction. If that means providing a motive for those to potentially not speak out about this, and therefore the necessity to expose that, then that's what I need to do. Thank you.
And so that is, as I say, please tell me your examples of any news stories that you see that capture that magic number 2030, and we'll call it there's that year again. Right now, I want to tackle something that I told you I do respond to what people have to say to me, and I want to tackle something that I often see in my comments, and that is about an ex-cop called Gary Waterman. And I am somebody who tackles things head on. Right, let me address this. Most people who I'm speaking to now will not have a clue who he is, but he made a series of videos where he claims me and a number of other people are refusing to interview him. So for the majority who don't know, here it is. Gary Waterman is an ex-police sergeant. He's a partner in a property business for over a decade, and he fell out with his business partners. He resigned from the company, and then he began to make huge claims about his ex-partner being involved with national and international fraud that links to trafficking and more. This is huge, right? Sounds huge, right? Huge story. Well, here's the thing. I applaud him for running a fairly successful campaign, but the fact is his story does not bear out. He's using the names of people like me who have put themselves out there for years, and he's trying to suggest that we might have issues with him, with what he's saying, and that we are in on the fraud. I've been told this weekend that he's now started defaming me, saying I'm in on the fraud. This is a lie, certainly regarding me, and it is defamatory. So the basis for Gary's claim is a company incorporation fraud, right? He rang me and took me through this step-by-step guide. And one of the reasons why a number of people are writing to me is because other YouTubers and influencers have given a platform to Mr. Waterman, including the lovely Richard Vobes, including Chris Thrall, including Mark Atwood. All three I've interviewed and have a great deal of time for. And they've all given time to this ex-cop. And some of them have given time for him to say, Sonia Poulton is not covering my story. So this is for future reference. I will not address this again, right? So I'm going to address this once and for all. And the next time Gary Waterman's name pops up in the comments, please feel free to refer them to this live stream. So here's the thing. He rang me, talked me through his theory. And at first I thought, yes, he's right. He's absolutely right. Then I did some research and no, he's absolutely not. It's actually legal. He's claiming that there is a fraud at Companies House that brings in all manner of people, including myself, including, I think, Russell Brand, Andrew Bridgen, all manner of people who've actually been speaking out, right? It's actually legal and regular practice for companies to operate under a different name than their formal corporation name. It's called doing business as, or fictitious name, in lieu of amending their legal names, which can be administratively more difficult. Now, you can argue the rights and wrongs of this, but what they are doing is not against the law, and it's not unique to company law either. There are numerous legal fictions, including being able to put a different marker on your passport from the biology you were born as, which is obscene, right? Absolutely obscene. You shouldn't be able to do that. But people need to learn more about company law before they automatically assume that Mr. Waterman holds the keys to the universe. I know he can talk a good talk. A good game. I've talked to him. And, you know, in some respects, he may be right. But the fundamental basis of his claim is flawed. And rather than him making videos demanding to know why people like me haven't interviewed him, I mean, such entitlement, doesn't it smack of an ex-cop? You literally have come out of nowhere. You were a sergeant and now you're running around demanding that people who have been putting their necks on the line for decades listen to you, right? And he insisted that all of this links to trafficking. And frankly, so far, everything that I've seen is that this is not the case. And one of the examples that he used for me is that he can prove that Madeleine McCann and Nicola Bulley are both linked. So I said, talk me through it. So actually, he wasn't able to talk me through it. He wasn't able to convince me. And the only thing that we could deduce from his link was the fact that Mark Williams Thomas, who is a cop and not one that I like, has covered both cases. That doesn't make a link. I've interviewed people who, you know, who've it doesn't make a link because I talk about the royal family, I talk about presidents, I talk about prime ministers, I talk about Madeleine McCann. Me talking about them does not automatically link all those cases together. And that's the kind of basis that Mr. Waterman works from, right? That's it. And also, as I said to him, and as he said in videos, he's actually running around defaming people at this moment in time. We had that conversation, and it turns out that Mr. Waterman does not understand defamation. And as a cop, he dealt in criminal law, and defamation is civil law. And I've been sued under defamation for several years. And my conversation with Mr. Waterman was, it was absolutely clear that he doesn't understand defamation. And at this moment in time, he is potentially defaming people, and it's wrong. Would you like him to say that you were involved in fraud when you are not? And the fact is, let's be real here. He could be anybody. Have you not learned anything about the infiltration of the truth movement? I'm not suggesting he's an infiltrator. He may actually be just a really good egg who's trying to get a point out, but he's getting out in a way that doesn't make sense to an investigative journalist, right? And no one has the right to demand that I cover anything, right? Because I have to carry the can for the outcome of anything that I cover, right? And that is the reality. So there you go. And the fact is, you won't always agree with me, and that is absolutely fine. Sometimes I get it wrong. I might have this wrong, and I'm prepared to accept that. All I'm saying is, based on the evidence at this moment in time, the basis of his theory is a company fraud. Well, it's not a company fraud because what people are doing is absolutely legitimate, absolutely legitimate. Right. And as I say, you always agree with me, and that's fine. And feel free to put it in an email and I will read it out. Okay, I will. Right, moving on.
Looking at a screenshot taken from the video that you've just seen and a comment underneath. We're now going to look into the Companies House registration system. And let me just say again, I'm not saying that Sonia Poulton is involved directly in any system of fraud or child trafficking or abuse, okay? Is Sonia Poulton linked through Companies House to a system of fraud that appears to be linked to international government child trafficking? Absolutely. Am I linked through Companies House to a system of fraud that appears to be linked to international child trafficking? Absolutely. But I want to talk about it because I need to expose it, because I realise not only have I been duped and brought into this unknowingly, it is also the key to most of our problems, as I've already identified and shown with all of the other evidence. Now, I do suggest you verify and corroborate the information, and you will see that it was true, but I suggest you go and verify and corroborate this information through the Companies House registration system yourself. Okay, and you can do that. Now, this first image is from searching within the Companies House registration system, Sonia Poulton. It brings up several results, and we're going to talk about these three because they're the first three, I believe, on there. And the first thing to notice is that there appears to be there are two records for the same person. You can see that the date, the month and year is the same for the person. The name is the same as well. Now, this is what appears to be a big part of the problem as well. So there are duplicated records for individuals. Now, that's a problem because it means that if somebody is searching the Companies House registration system for an individual, it won't bring up all of their companies or links within one record. Now, if I've identified this, of course Companies House would know about this, and this is another allows the possibility to hide and conceal the fraud and avoid accountability and liability. So we're going to go into the first record, and you can see here that you have a company called Truth and Integrity Limited. So we're just clicking on the name, and now we're going to click into, in a minute, the company name. So clicking into the company name now, just to show here that it does appear to be Sonia. And Sonia, obviously you don't want to talk to me for whatever reason. I'll let the people decide why that may be after we've shown this. But here it shows that this person is a journalist. Now, Sonia, if this isn't you and you haven't created this record for yourself in any way, then of course I offer you the opportunity to address that and let the public know that this wasn't you and you have been victimised as well. Now, as we go into the record now for Truth and Integrity Limited, you can see this company was dissolved, and at the bottom there it was dissolved on the 26th of December 2023. Now, I started reporting the fraud in September 2022. I believe I started publicising it through my YouTube in around, it might have actually been as early as September, because I started to realise that most organisations appeared to be involved in it and were trying to conceal it. And this company dissolved in December 2023. Now, we're now into the incorporation document of that company, and you can do that by clicking on the filing history tab. So when you're on the overview page of the company, hopefully most of you will now know how to do this. When you're on the overview, you have 4 or 5 tabs there. You can click into the filing history and find it, and it's normally the oldest document. Okay, so you have to go right to the beginning of the company creation, and it's normally that first document. And you can see here that Sonia Poulton is mentioned as being a director on that incorporation document. It says journalist as well. And she's also shown as a previous person of significant interest or control in the company. And you can look at that if you click on the people tab next to it, to the right, normally there's another tab for person of, I can't remember the wording, but person of significant control or something like that. Now we're going into the person record or people record within Truth and Integrity. So you can see Truth and Integrity at the top, and we're now looking within this person's record. So we click on their name. And and you can see Ongar Enterprises Limited. So we click on that and it takes you into the overview. Okay, and you can see here the different tabs that we were just talking about. So you've got overview in the middle there, filing history, people, charges, insolvency, more. Now I've just been using mainly overview, filing history, people. Many people have also been looking at the charges and finding that that actually provides very good evidence in relation to this fraud. So we're now into, this company's incorporation document was a little bit more difficult to find, and sometimes you'll find it's not where it normally is, or you can't get to it, or you have to pay for it as the oldest document, and you have to find this section that says a selection of documents registered before a certain date, and normally you can find the incorporation document in there, and you can see the view PDF to the right. So you just click on that and it brings up the incorporation document. Now the first thing that I noticed on this is the address. Now this address, City Road, features frequently throughout the fraud, and there are numerous different numbers that are used in that road, and this is another method of the fraud. And Finchley Road, 788, 790 Finchley Road is a prime example of this, where the ability has been there to use addresses for which they have absolutely no real affiliation to, so therefore they can avoid accountability and liability for any litigation for any fraudulent activity or criminal activity, or civil litigation as well. So that was the first thing that jumped out at me. But also at the bottom, more importantly, you have this company, Express Company Registrations Limited. And you can see it's important because it links to my previous research already. And at the top, you can see it links to Jeffrey Epstein research and also Jordan's Limited. Okay, and these are important. And I do suggest you can go and look in the public document file link that I have now available, and I will put it at the base of this base of this video in the description. And you can look at the Jeffrey Epstein document that I've produced, and you will see that company links very quickly to him. So we now have a very quick link, whether Sonia likes it or not, to Jeffrey Epstein, but also through to Jordan's, which is an illegal entity company where it's been forged. The register has been forged against the incorporation document, and importantly that links to my company. So my company was started up by Jordan's Limited and as well as Swift Incorporations Limited. So we already now have a link very quickly to Sonia Poulton and my company via Jordan's Limited. Don't forget, my company is where I acquired the forged bank documents produced by the banks, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But also, Express Company Registrations links to the World Trade Center disaster through my research very quickly again. Remember, there's over 5 million companies. And don't forget, these aren't just me saying links. Sonia said I'm just saying links. I'm not. I'm showing the links that are verifiable and corroborative. And not only are they links, but they are links to fraud throughout, through the forgery that we are talking about. And of course, you've also got the forgery of the incorporation documents itself as well, which again is a crime. And you can see here, this links to the research of a particular member within my company. And that person called for a meeting to have me removed as a director because I was refusing to file the forged bank documents. And you see here it also links through to Macmillan, and we'll come to that a bit later. So we're now back into Ongar Enterprises, and we're now looking at this person. So we've got Training Highway. Now just flicking in between different people. So if you go into Training Highway, into the people record, it now takes you to this person. Go into this person's record, you have this company listed. We're going to look into this company now. And this company, Advanced Health and Care Limited, we're now on the overview page. And we can see it was incorporated in 1994 in the middle there. It's an active company. And at the bottom, you can see that originally they were called Wind Cover Services Limited from June 94 until only September 94. And then they changed their names to Ad Astra Software Limited. We look at their incorporation document. You can see, we've already mentioned it, Swifting Corporations Limited was used in starting my company. This person at the top has not been registered with Swifting Corporations Limited, as should have been the case. Oh, if you look on the next page, you'll see that Jordan's is on there, and Jordan's and Sons Limited of an address of 21 St Thomas Street, Bristol. So we now have that link to my company again. Now we're looking into that advanced health company, and in the person record we're going to go into this person. And interestingly, they were appointed within this company in June 2023, which you can see there. Now that person has connections to the following companies: OYES Professional Services Limited. Here's that company here. An active company. And it's important to note at the bottom that the original name for it was Yorkova Limited in 1976 to 1998. That's important because it links to York Place, which features throughout the fraud. And you will see that in the other documents. But interestingly here, they changed their name once in 1998, but again in April 2001, 3 months before Larry. And on the incorporation document, you'll see Jordan's Limited, the same company that started mine with Swifting Corporation Limited, and that is an illegal entity company. 100%, guys, a criminal offence, a fraud, Sonia, not you, this. Okay, so here is, within that person record, we've also got Waterloo Business Supplies. This is one of the most notorious fraud elements or companies involved in the fraud, and we have a link now. It also links through to the currency system and the currency producer, shall we say, De La Rue, and links heavily through to the Freemasons and corruption and fraud as well. And you can see this person was appointed in June 2023, if it's a real person. Looking at Waterloo Business Supplies Limited, you can see they were started in 1989, and these are featured, you'll see on from the very beginning, this company featured very, very significantly throughout. And this is just to show you some of the examples. So again, they link through to Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, a management company which links to the area that I'm in, of course. It also links through to the Betsy Limited Company. And when you research the Betsy Cadwallader Health Board, University Health Board, I think it is, fraud, where £122 million of taxpayers' money appeared to go missing, that links through to Waterloo's. You also have a link to Bank of America, which links to Nicola Bulley. There's loads of links through to Nicola Bulley, and all the way through this fraud very quickly through to Madeleine McCann. So Sonia should be very interested in expressing this. And this company also links through to Andrew Bridgen's research. We've also got a company here that links through to Waterloo's again, and it links through to the World Trade Center disaster and Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council in the research, and also through to British Institute for International and Comparative Law Limited. Waterloo's again, just to show, links through to Carnival PLC, P&O and Bank of America, which all was focused around the World Trade Center disaster research. And remember, these aren't just links. Here's a connection to Peter Lawson. Waterloo's links through to Peter Lawson, the lead investigator who was found deceased in the Nicola. He was the lead investigator for the Nicola Bulley case. He was found deceased at his home address, according to research, and also the chief constable resigned. Waterloo also links through to Keir Starmer research. Now this is the second record for Sonia POULTON. You know, I'd love Sonia to comment on this. And remember, it's not about me. You know what? I don't care about. I don't want attention. I want this evidence to have attention. This evidence needs to have attention by everyone. And anyone that does not want to expose this has to be questioned significantly about why they may not want to. Now here's SoniaPoulton.com Limited. We're now just looking into the company. Dissolved in 2015. These are all public records. We're now looking within the incorporation documents. And there's Sonia on there as a journalist and broadcaster. And we have POULTON CPM Limited on the incorporation document. So we're going to look at that company, POULTON CPM Limited. Note the address, 120 Baker Street. It's an active company involved in bookkeeping activities, according to this at the bottom. Now we're within the person records, and this person links to Macmillan Homes Limited. Remember, we've already mentioned Macmillan a couple of times. Macmillan also links through to Robert Maxwell when you look at the research of the World Trade Center disaster. And here we have an Express company. Remember, we've already mentioned Express linked to Jeffrey Epstein. It was actually a different company. But what they do is they have multiple companies and they put the same, I'm not saying it's what's happened with this one, because I'm not going to go that far into this particular company at the moment. But quite often they'll put part of the name within a shell company name as well, and then it'll be linked through the directors and secretaries or the incorporation documents. You can normally find the evidential links. So here's just looking back into POULTON CPM Limited at the beginning. This person within that record, so within the person record now of that company, we're now looking into them. And you have Property Fintech Limited, an active company. Here it is, Property Fintech Limited. And on their incorporation documents, you have Companies Made Simple Limited. Now hopefully if you've seen my other videos, and I do suggest you watch the World Trade Center one again, you will see that this company features significantly to the World Trade Center disaster. And when you go into Companies Made Simple, it links to Westco nominees, and the company name has been removed completely from the incorporation document, which is an absolute criminal offence, and I suspect to hide the evidential connections to the child trafficking, the collapse of the World Trade Center building, or the disaster, shall we say, and the Larry Silverstein. So we now have a link there. Going back into that person's record, you've got Global Financial Partners Limited. Looking into this company, their incorporation documents now. And we've also got Companies Made Simple Limited again. And again, this address 2022 Wenlock Road is notorious for being linked through my research to the fraud. We've also got a company now that's in liquidation under the same person record. So all we're doing is going back a screen, looking into a company, back a screen, looking into a company. Okay, so we're not far at all from Sonia here. And this is JODZ International Limited. It's in liquidation. Here they are. This address, Basinghall Street, features throughout the fraud, but they use different numbers within it. You'll see that throughout my fraud. This is number 40 in liquidation. This was incorporated in 2003. General Construction and Civil Engineer. Now the incorporation documents, and you can see a company called First Class Company Services Limited, and an address above of New Bond Street, 72 New Bond Street. You'll notice that features throughout the fraud as well on my research. And First Class Company Services again links to research with Jeffrey Epstein. Finchley Roads, the notorious addresses in Finchley Road, in particular 790 Finchley Road in London. Also links through to a South Coast company, where Dorset is, South Coast. Also links, we've already mentioned the World Trade Center disaster. Here we have a link to, and you'll see it on the World Trade Center document, to Rudy Giuliani. I'm sorry, Rudy, I always pronounce your name wrong. Giuliani. And also to Max Clifford and the World Trade Center disaster. And Rudy was the mayor of New York at the time of the collapse of the World Trade Center building. Now, if you go back into the person record that we were looking at, you'll see this company, Sakoba Dance Theatre. Looking on the incorporation documents for this company, you can see 788 to 790 Finchley Road, and a Keith Kahan that features throughout the fraud. Go and look at my other documents to see that, and you can see at the top there, Temple Secretaries, and again at the bottom, 788 to 790 Finchley Road. Interestingly, no coincidence, I believe, divine intervention. In the last few days, someone trying to assist me has been to the location, great person, and they videoed that address, and you can see it's empty, and it's all part of the fraud. And there was a Ham and High article that you can look at. It's on my last videos. You can check it out on my Telegram channel, and you can go and look at the evidence in relation to that. Now, looking into Sakoba Dance Company, we have this person. And remember, we are not far away at all from the initial research on Sonia POULTON. And you've got an oil company. Oil companies feature throughout the fraud. We've also got a pension vault. And we've already got pensions linked throughout, and you'll see that in some of the other documents. Of course, there's an opportunity for pension fraud. All these people putting their money into pensions. If people don't get to use them, people don't get to use their pensions. Sorry, we almost run a bird over. Sorry, my wife almost ran a bird over, not me. Then obviously if there's a depopulation event, then pensions will not be taken, will not be used. So there's a motive to depopulate through the pension fraud. So we've got a company here anyway, Westminster. Oh, let me just reiterate, I'm not saying, just to reiterate, I'm not saying Sonia or myself are involved in pension fraud, but we are linked to an international government fraud linked to child trafficking. Westminster Accountancy Limited, on their incorporation document. Here you've got another address in Finchley Road, okay, but a different number. Just thought I'd mention that. And that's Westminster Accountancy Limited. Also on there you've got companies First Corporate Services Limited. Broadway, that features throughout, but quite often 50 Broadway, London, links to police, I can't remember, I think it's the Association of Chief Police Officers address. But this is to show that a quick search on First Corporate Law Services, almost exactly the same, and I haven't gone any further to confirm the link, but this is just to show the previous research in relation to David Cameron linked to the Law Services, Corporate Law Services Limited, First Corporate Law Services Limited. It also links through again to BCP Council, Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, that also link to the World Trade Center disaster. Now remember, there's over 5 million companies. Here we are back into this person's record. We've got Carrion International Limited, dissolved company. Just looking back, make sure that's Goldstein Communications Limited at the bottom. Yeah, you can see again 788 to 790 Finchley Road, an address notoriously linked to international government fraud, dictators, tax, crime and corrupt politicians. Have a look at the article in my last video. Back into a different person record now. Now this is very important, this where we're heading now. Sakoba Dance. And now we have an address of a company in Salisbury in Wiltshire. If we go into that company, that's Methuen Drive Residents Association Limited. If we go into their record, you have an address of Fordingbridge, Hampshire, Elizabeth House, Unit 13, Fordingbridge Business Park. Now I recognise this address immediately, and that is because it links to Napier Management Services Limited. Now, when our management company resigned, when I tried to ask questions about our accounts and they were managing the finances of our company, they resigned, and somebody instigated within my company or suggested that this company be used to manage our building. So the new management company. Now we know why. If you go into the person record now, you can of that company, links through to this person with an address in Dorchester. And if you look into them, you have Gordon Court Bournemouth Limited, Hawthorne House 1, Lowther Gardens, Bournemouth, Dorset. Now I know that this, oh, sorry about the sound. Sorry about that, the sound was nothing to do with my wife's driving. She's amazing driver. She's laughing. So here you've got this company, and you can see that the person resigned in December 2022. May or may not be relevant. I started reporting this, as I've said, in September 2022. But if you go into this company, now remember, we're not far away from SONIA POULTON at all. But you can look at the incorporation document for that company. Shaw and Blake has featured throughout. It's an old looking document, that one. But even more interesting, it links to Burns Property Management Limited. This was another company that came to be one of our management companies. Now, I found very early that there were people within my company trying to push me into getting certain companies to come and be the new management company. And of course, I was growing very suspicious of this, the insistence of having these companies potentially managing us rather than others that I was looking into. And of course, we now know why. Going into that Gordon company now, into the people record, you can see that this company is under Michael Davies, Lintec Securities Limited. Well, why is that important? They resigned in July 2002, but Lintec Securities is important because if you go into my company, where I'm still a shareholder, but where I was removed as a director, you will see here I am as a director, and I was removed. Okay, I didn't resign in July 2023. I was removed by others within my company. You can see that Property Solutions Southern Limited is the current managing company managing the building. Okay, so they're managing our company. I'm led to believe they're managing our finances, although they won't provide me with a management agreement, a signed management agreement confirming it. And if you look at Paul William Mallory, who is part of, when you search Companies House, Property Solutions Southern Limited, Paul Mallory is the managing agent that I was liaising with when I was removed as a director. And you can see Property Solutions, Paul Mallory also links to Lintec Securities Limited. Now, we have not come far at all from SONIA POULTON. Remember, there are over 5 million companies, and we have multiple connections to my company, to the fraud. And of course, I obtained the forged bank documents from my company. Hopefully that will make sense. God bless you.